To welcome committee members and guests to the Committee on Student Affairs and Special Programs. Everyone should have some form of electronic device in order to access our agenda, the iPad or the laptop or iPhone. If you don't, there are copies of the agenda and supporting documents on the table, so that should help everybody. Good. So for today's meeting, we have 2 action items and 1 informational item. Our first action item is approval of the meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of the January 6th, 2014 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Our second item today, Vice Chancellor Frank Sanchez will now provide an overview of the Bernard Baruch Revised Auxiliary Enterprise Incorporation. Boy, that's gonna be a long
Yes.
report, because that's a long title.
Hopefully it's not too long of a report. So the CUNY Board of Trustees approved the original bylaws of the Bernard M. Baruch College Auxiliary Enterprise Corporation on January 3rd, 1984. No changes to the bylaws have been approved by the board since that time. As part of a general review of its operations, the auxiliary recently reviewed and revised the bylaws to better meet the needs and to reflect current best practices. The auxiliary will retain its board structure of 11 board members composed of the Baruch College president or his or her designee as chair, 5 students, 2 administrators, and 3 faculty members. The president of Baruch College seeks board approval of these amended bylaws. The amended bylaws are consistent with the board bylaws. A summary, a memorandum, and the amended bylaws, as well as the proposed board resolution, are attached in the.
Can you read them all to us? No.
No. I won't read them all to you, but they're available. But what we will do, we have a member of from Baruch, Miss Mary Gorman. She's the Chief of Staff, Office of the President, and I've asked her to give a brief overview of some of the changes that we would like to see in this revised
Sure.
Welcome.
revision.
Thank you very much for having me. In addition to being the President's Chief of Staff, I also currently serve as Chair of the Board of Directors for the Auxiliary Enterprise Corporation. As Vice Chancellor Sanchez mentioned, this does not in any way change the structure of the board nor its purpose.
Can you give us just a 2-second summary of?
Sure. This is
what the board
the
does?
affiliated entity that maintains contractual relationships with, for example, our bookstore, our food service vendor. So those revenues come in, and then the board decides how they're allocated, mostly in support of student services.
Great.
The bylaws had not changed in 30 years and no longer really reflected current business practices, best practices for this sort of organization. And so the amendments include a provision that the students have to meet the requirements of the board's student leadership eligibility guidance, which means they have to maintain certain GPAs, they can't be on disciplinary, under disciplinary sanctions, that sort of thing. It made more specific the terms for the directors, and the provisions for how directors are replaced when a position becomes vacant. Provisions regarding conflict of interest and indemnification were added, and all of this was done under the guidance of CUNY Legal Counsel. And then there was a small reorganization with regard to the Budget and Contract Committee and Audit Committee in the way the board functions. The board now operates as a body of the whole, as a budget committee, instead of having a separate subcommittee for the budget.
Terrific.
Any questions at all?
Great. So may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion is approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Now, I am needed at the other committee meeting across the hall for quorum, so Vice Chancellor Sanchez will continue with the remaining information items.
Thank you.
In good hands.
Thank you. So we have just one information item and then the Vice Chancellor's report. We have with us, in fact, I don't see him, maybe he's out here, Mr. Farouk Abdallah, he's the Deputy Director of NIPERG. He is to, every year, NIPERG, which is the New York Public Interest Research Group, has to provide an annual report to the Board of Trustees. And so he is scheduled to be here to give us a brief report and then to field any questions committee members might ask.
Hello.
How are you doing? Please join us.
Can take any of these seats.
So, Mr. Abdallah, I was just sharing with the committee members that every year NIPERG is required to provide a report, kind of summary of the programs, events, and activities that occurred this past year. And so we've invited you to join us just to give us an overview of the 2012-2013 NIPERG report.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's pulling up.
Turn the mic towards
sure.
you. Thank you so much.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. Pulling it up, a quick outline. NIPERG is a student-run, student-directed, non-for-profit advocacy organization. We got started at CUNY, so we're statewide at Queens College. And with students working with NIPERG, learn to become active members of their community through NIPERG's education and training program. This education takes place through formal structured trainings through continual hands-on experience in activism and advocacy. Students working with NIPERG have the opportunity to develop skills that complement their classroom experience, such as writing news releases, speaking in front of large groups, organizing events, building coalitions. This hands-on approach teaches students active civic skills to broaden their education, involve them in the democratic process. It also provides students with the opportunity to apply these skills and build credentials that will make them even stronger candidates for employment upon graduation. Activity skills range from classroom trainings, registering new voters, to full-time internships where students become expert advocates on issues including government accountability, consumer protection, and cleaner environments. I'm sure you can tell by the size of our report, it's a pretty extensive the issue that we work on. So I thought it might be helpful for me just to highlight a couple things that are listed in our report. And of course, I'm happy to take any questions. I also want to point out that I'm here joined with some of our students from our various CUNY schools, including Ben DeAngelis, who actually he's a staff person who runs our campus program statewide. Last year, our College of Staten Island chapter worked tirelessly to help victims of Hurricane Sandy. Students with NIPERG helped coordinate an on-campus clothing center known as Sandy's Closet, through which we collected over 250 items. More than 20 NIPERG students organized cleanups, demolition days throughout the island, South Shore, in order to help affected residents bring back their lives to a bit of normalcy. One of the things that we actually worked very closely with the various offices of student life on our 9 CUNY chapters is voter registration. And together, working very closely with them, our 9 chapters were able to register over 10,000 CUNY students to register to vote. And in addition to the 10,000 CUNY students, our students working in the community registered an additional 10,000 community members to vote. And to complement that, because it's not just enough that they register, we also wanted students to go out there and vote on election day. We ran get out the vote efforts on the day of, which again, we worked very closely with the various offices of student life, where we did classroom presentations. We set up tables throughout the campus where we looked up students' polling sites, if they had questions about voting, particularly if they're a first-time voter. We also ran a hotline where if people had questions about voting or if they encountered any problems at the polling site, we had our advocate on hand to help them talk through how to deal with these various problems. Also, the night before, we called many of those 10,000 students, well, at least the ones that we can get through to remind them to vote. And then if they had any questions, if we had them on the phone, we did our best to answer those questions.
Very good. Do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Abdallah?
If I could just end with one thing, I just really want to take this opportunity to thank all the student life staff on our campuses, VPs of student life, student activity directors, and all of them. We wouldn't be able to do the work that we do if it wasn't for their assistance and their guidance, whether it's voter registration, or internship program, or any of the work that we do. It's a partnership that we're very proud of, and it's a partnership that we really look forward to continuing.
Great. Thank you. You know, I do have a question, but before I do that, it'd be great if we had our students introduce themselves, the students that participated real quickly. Maybe introduce yourself, your name, which institution you're from, what major you.
Actually, Tiffany's also a staff person. She works at Queens College, but I'll let the students introduce themselves.
Hi, I know a few of you. I'm Aileen. I'm from Queens College. I'm actually the chairperson for the organization.
Hi, my name is Mariela. I work for BMTC. My major is Business Education.
Hi, my name is Marcus. I go to Bronx, and my major is paralegal studies.
Hi, my name is Alex. My major is Computer Information Systems, and I go to New York City College of Technology.
Well, thank you again. So the question I have, I was curious, of all the programming that you've done this past year, what would you say, in your best estimate, had the greatest impact on students as they participated in it and engaged in the activities?
It's a good question. Well, I would, if I had to pick one, I would probably say this Hurricane Sandy relief work that we did. I highlighted what we did on Staten Island because it was really like an example of our students working with our staff, working with the campus administration, and working with the community to have a direct impact on people's lives. And our other chapters did similar work, not only on Staten Island, some in the Rockaways, some Red Hook, where they like immediately sprung into action, wanted to do something, got involved. Some cases it was food and clothing drive, some cases it was helping clean up houses or knocking them down, or parts of it knocking down, but just that connection that they had with the community. And these CUNY students are also part of the community, they're not just students, they're members of the city. I would probably say the most direct, empowering thing we did last year.
Great. Well, thank you again.
I have one
Please.
question. What's your best guess of the head count of the total number of CUNY students who participated in the programs?
For Hurricane Sandy relief?
No,
or,
just no across the year.
Oh, I would, it depends on the school, but I would each chapter will have a group of students anywhere between 50 and 100, and then but we will involve with events, forums, probably a couple thousand. At BMCC, for example, we registered 1,900 students to vote.
Wow.
So that's 1,900 people, which is, I believe is close to 10% of the student body.
Right.
And if you look at how many of those students are eligible voters, I'm sure the percentage is much higher. So we interact with thousands of students.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Abdallah? Great, thank you again, and thank you for the work you're doing with our
Thank you.
students. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
I will now move to my report. It's a relatively brief report, but there are a number of items I want to share with the committee. Recently, the White House made an announcement in regards to addressing sexual misconduct on college campuses, and specifically, President Obama mentioned the role of college presidents in this important effort. Several Title IX trainings have occurred across the university with key constituents, including directors of public safety, our vice presidents of student affairs, have been trained, and Title IX coordinators, highlighting the new protocol requiring their coordination of efforts on campuses. In addition to them, student leaders, including University Student Senate representatives and resident assistants, have also participated in training around Title IX compliance. The NCAA held their 2014 convention from January 15th to the 18th in San Diego, California. At the convention, representatives from the NCAA Divisions 1, 2, and 3 came together to discuss and vote on key topics in higher education and intercollegiate athletics. The convention featured educational sessions, government decisions, and the celebration of student athletes' success. The CUNY Athletic Conference was represented by Commissioner Zach Ivkovich and Associate Director and Director of Championships Kim Santiema. 4 student athletes also participated in the conference. John Jay softball player Calissa Daly, CSI men's soccer competitor Michael Massa, Lehman's soccer, tennis, and volleyball player Marcos Cotto Batrice, and Brooklyn swimming and diving participant Valentina Mulroy, and CUNY administrators, including President Bill Fritz from CSI, Vice President for Student Affairs Lynette Cook-Francis from John Jay, and myself. 2 of our international students, both from BMCC, are the recipients of the IIE Filipino Emergency Student Fund Award. The amount of the award is $6,000 per student. The Institute for International Education has established an emergency student fund for Filipino students studying here and who were impacted by Typhoon Haiyan. On Thursday, February 6th, the Educational Advisory Board, or EAB, will facilitate a professional development workshop for our international student advisors across the university. The presentation is titled Supporting International Students on Campus, and it will outline the high-impact strategies and programs innovative institutions are employing to meet the needs of this new and growing population of undergraduate international students. And that concludes my report. Let's see, and
Are there any questions?
any questions?
Great. Hearing none, I think that concludes our meeting. Thank you all for coming. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Safe travels back.
Thank you.